Now, welcome to the final lesson on the Introduction to Calculus chapter in the textbook. The last lesson is entitled the Quotient Rule, and the quotient rule relates to quotients, which means that we are dividing. Here's our rule. As I said, it comes down to when you are dividing two things because two different functions of x are being divided. So if you have y equals something with x's in it over something else with x's in it, you are dividing them, and it's u divided by v. Then the derivative is vu dash minus uv dash over v squared. Important you worry about the order for this with the vu dash and the uv dash over v squared, because if you get the order wrong, you'll get things all mucked up. And remember, u is the top of the fraction and v is the bottom of the fraction. Right, let's try the first example. Differentiate y equals 2x take 5 over 3x plus 4. We can't differentiate that using normal techniques because there is an x in the bottom of the fraction, and that makes it messy. Now we could actually move that whole denominator, put it in a bracket to the power of 1, move it up to the top, put it to the power of minus 1, and we could use the product rule. But the quotient rule is going to be easier in this case. So let's look at the top of the fraction separately to the bottom of the fraction. The top of the fraction we call u. The bottom of the fraction is called v. So that means u equals 2x take 5 and v will equal 3x plus 4. Let's figure out what the derivative of u is. The derivative of 2x is 2, derivative minus 5 is nothing, so the derivative of u is 2. What's the derivative of v? The derivative of v is 3x becomes a 3, 4 differentiates to become 0, so v dash will equal 3. So we've got our expressions for u dash, v and v dash. Here's our formula. Now remember, when we're writing the formula, it's going to be v times u dash first. Now what's v and u dash? There's v, there's u dash. They are being timesed first. Now if I times them, I can see the u dash is just a number 2. That's going to be easier just to put 2 multiplied by 3x plus 4 and make sure the 3x plus 4 is in brackets. The second part is minus u times v dash. Well, there's u and there's v dash. So those two parts have to be multiplied together. So when I multiply those together, I'm going to get 3 multiplied by 2x take 5, but remember there is a minus in the formula, so it'll be minus 3 times 2x take 5. And that's all over the v part squared. So it'll be over 3x plus 4 in brackets squared. Now we don't worry about expanding the denominator. Never times that bottom part out, but let's expand the top parts out. 2 times 3x is 6x. 2 times 4 is 8. Negative 3 times 2x, negative 6x. Negative 3 times negative 5 is positive 15. And so we'll get that answer of 6x plus 8 minus 6x plus 15. If we look carefully at that, we'll see that the 6x minus the 6x, they cancel out. You're left with 8 plus 15, which is 23 over 3x plus 4 in brackets squared. And that's the answer. That's where we stop. We've differentiated. If we had a point, we could plug our x value of our point into that derivative and we'd find the gradient at that point. This is just a weird looking graph that we're playing around with now, and this is the derivative formula to help us find the gradient at any point on this weird looking graph. Let's try a second example. Again, it's written as a fraction. We have the top of the fraction has x's, the bottom of the fraction has x's. They both have x's, so we can use the quotient rule because we're dividing things that both have x's. So if we use our quotient rule, the top part is always u, the bottom part is always v. That means u equals 4x cubed minus 5x plus 1, and v will equal x cubed plus 2. Now what's the derivative of u? Let's differentiate this part. Derivative of 4x cubed, power 3 times 4, 12x squared, minus 5. So there's our derivative for u. Remember, the derivative of a constant drops out. The derivative of v, well, the 2 is going to drop out. Derivative of x cubed becomes 3x squared. Now we've got our u dash, v dash. We're ready to use our formula. So remember, it's going to be v times u dash first. There's v. There's u dash. They're being timesed first. Now they're both terms that have two parts to it. So let's just put each part in a bracket and leave it at that. Now the formula says to minus u times v dash. Well, what's u times v dash? There's u. There's v dash. I think v dash looks a bit tidier to write first because there's only a 3x squared. And you'll need to remember that we're timesing those together. But there's a minus sign in the formula, so it'll be minus 3x squared times that mess. That will give us minus 3x squared times that mess, and I'll keep that mess of the 4x cubed minus 5x plus 1 in a bracket. And it all goes over the v part squared. Well, the v part is x cubed plus 2. X cubed plus 2 squared has to be written on the bottom because it's v squared in the formula. Now, we never times the bottom of the formula out, but we always tidy the top up. Now that can be FOILed out. This part can be expanded out, and we need to do that. So, what's x cubed times 12x squared? Becomes 12x to the power of, add the powers, 12x to the power of 5. X cubed times minus 5, minus 5x cubed. Now the inside terms, plus 2 times 12x squared, plus 24x squared. The last terms, 2 times minus 5 gives minus 10. Over on this side, minus 3x squared times 4x cubed gives minus 12x to the power of 5. For the powers, you've got to plus the powers, remember. When you're multiplying indices, you plus the powers if they have the same base. Next part will be minus 3x squared times minus 5x. Minus times the minus gives a plus 15x cubed. And the last part, minus 3x squared times 1 becomes minus 3x squared. So let's just go over that again. And we'll get each part multiplied out. And there's our answer. What we need to do is tidy it up now. Now tidying this up, if I get all my like terms together, I can see that there's a 12x to the power of 5 minus a 12x to the power of 5. They're going to cancel each other out. Let's look at my cubes. I've got minus 5x cubed plus 15x cubed. Minus 5 plus 15 is plus 10. So I'll get 10x cubed. Let's look at the next part. The x squareds, 24 of them, minus 3 of them. Gives me plus 21x squared. And the only other part that I haven't dealt with is the minus 10. It doesn't have any friends. So minus 10 all over x cubed plus 2 squared. We don't expand the denominator. There's no common factors on the top. So that's our final answer. Quite a tricky and messy question, but nevertheless we can differentiate it. Time for you to do some questions now. Enjoy.